Hello, my friend. Tonight, before sleep takes you gently into the quiet darkness, I want you to imagine something. Imagine that somewhere beyond the busy roads, beyond the cities glowing beneath the night sky, beyond the endless schedules and responsibilities of everyday life, there exists a train station that appears only after midnight. Most people never notice it. Most people walk right past. But tonight, somehow, you do. And that is where our journey begins. Before we board the train, allow yourself to settle comfortably. Let your body become heavy. Let your breathing slow. And know that for the next little while, there is absolutely nothing you need to do. Nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to solve. Tonight is for rest. Tonight is for sleep. Take a slow breath in and slowly let it go. Again, breathing in calm, breathing out tension. Feel the bed supporting you. Feel the pillow beneath your head. Feel the steady support of the earth beneath everything. You are safe. You are warm. And you are exactly where you need to be. The station. It is just after midnight. The streets are quiet. A gentle fog drifts through the air. The world seems softer somehow. Streetlights glow with warm golden halos. The distant sounds of the city have faded into silence. As you walk along a narrow road, you notice something unusual. A small train station. You have never seen it before, yet somehow it feels familiar. The building is made of old red brick. A clock hangs above the entrance. Its hands point exactly to 12. Not a minute more, not a minute less. Above the doorway is a sign, the Midnight Express. Below it are smaller words, Destination, Valley of Dreams. A feeling of calm curiosity fills you. Not excitement, not nervousness, just a gentle sense that you belong here, as though the station had been waiting for you. And perhaps it has. A warm light glows from inside. You step through the door. The waiting room is peaceful. A fireplace crackles softly. Old wooden benches line the walls. A sleepy orange cat rests near the fire. Its tail flicks lazily. A clock ticks quietly. Somewhere, a kettle whistles. The scent of fresh tea fills the room. An elderly conductor smiles as you enter. His silver uniform gleams softly in the firelight. His eyes are kind. The kind of eyes that seem to understand tired travelers. Right on time, he says. We've been expecting you. Boarding the train. Outside, the train waits silently. Its polished cars shine beneath the moonlight. The windows glow with warm amber light. Steam drifts gently upward. The conductor helps you aboard. The door closes behind you with a soft click. Inside, everything feels cozy. Soft velvet seats, warm lamps, wood-paneled walls, quiet music drifting somewhere far away. The train begins to move, slowly, smoothly, almost silently. The station fades behind you, and your journey begins. The forest of whispering pines. Outside the window, moonlit forests appear. Tall pine trees stretch endlessly beneath the stars. Silver mist curls between their trunks. The branches sway gently, not from wind, but from something softer, something quieter. The trees seem to whisper to one another, ancient conversations carried through centuries. The train glides onward. You watch the forest pass, and with every mile, another piece of tension leaves your body. Your shoulders soften, Your jaw relaxes. Your breathing becomes slower, more peaceful, more natural. The conductor passes by carrying a tray. On it rests a steaming mug. Chamomile tea, warm honey, a hint of vanilla. You take a sip. Warmth spreads through you, comforting, gentle, safe. The moonlit lake. Soon the forest gives way to water. A vast lake stretches beneath the moon. The surface is perfectly still, like glass. The moon reflects upon it so clearly that it almost seems there are two moons, one above, one below. Tiny boats drift quietly near the shore. Lanterns glow softly from their decks. No one rushes, no one hurries. Everything moves at the pace of dreams. The train follows the shoreline, and the rhythmic sound of the tracks becomes soothing, steady, predictable, comforting. Click, clack, click, clack. Like a lullaby, like a heartbeat, like sleep itself slowly approaching. The Valley of Dreams. Eventually, mountains appear, gentle blue silhouettes beneath the stars. The train begins to climb, higher and higher, until finally it reaches a hidden valley, a place untouched by noise, untouched by worry, untouched by time. This is the Valley of Dreams. Soft golden lights glow among distant cottages. Lavender fields sway beneath the moonlight. A small river winds through the valley. Its waters shimmer like liquid silver. The train slows and comes to a gentle stop. The conductor smiles. We're here. The Dreamkeeper's cottage. Near the river stands a small cottage. Warm light glows from its windows. Inside lives the Dreamkeeper, an old woman with silver hair. She greets every traveler kindly. She offers a warm blanket, a comfortable chair, and a place beside the fire. The smell of cedar wood, lavender, fresh baked bread. The Dreamkeeper sits quietly, knitting beside the fire. Every stitch she makes becomes a peaceful dream for someone sleeping somewhere in the world. A child dreaming of summer fields, a sailor dreaming of calm seas, a grandmother dreaming of old memories, a tired traveler dreaming of home. Perhaps tonight she is weaving a dream just for you. The River of Stars. Later, you walk beside the river. The water reflects thousands of stars, more stars than you have ever seen. The river moves slowly, patiently, without effort. It never rushes. It never worries. It simply flows. And watching it reminds you that you do not need to rush either. Not tonight. Tonight, there is only rest, only breathing, only peace. The final rest. Eventually, you return to a small room prepared just for you. A soft bed, fresh blankets, an open window. Outside, crickets sing softly. The river whispers nearby. The mountains stand watch beneath the stars. You climb beneath the blanket. The mattress welcomes you. The pillow supports your head perfectly. Your body feels heavy now, comfortably heavy. Your thoughts drift more slowly, like clouds crossing a quiet sky. The Dreamkeeper quietly dims the lantern. The room becomes softer, darker, more peaceful. Outside, the Midnight Express waits silently until morning, ready for another traveler.
But you do not need to think about tomorrow. You do not need to think about anything at all. Because here in the Valley of Dreams, you are safe, you are warm, you are exactly where you need to be.
The Dreamkeeper smiles as you settle beneath the blankets. The fire glows softly in the corner. Outside, the river continues its gentle journey through the valley. You could sleep right now, and perhaps part of you already has. But in the Valley of Dreams, there are still a few places left to discover before sleep fully carries you away. The Dreamkeeper stands and places a small lantern into your hands. The flame inside burns with a soft golden light. Not bright, never harsh, just enough to illuminate the path ahead. If you wish, she says quietly, there is a little town just beyond the river. A town where time itself sleeps. The words sound strange, and yet perfectly natural. You wrap a soft shawl around your shoulders and step outside. The night air is cool and pleasant. Lavender drifts on the breeze. Above you, the stars seem larger than they do anywhere else. Brighter, closer, almost as though the sky has lowered itself to greet the earth. You follow a winding stone path. Tiny lanterns hang from wooden posts. Each one glows with a warm amber light. The river hums softly beside you, and before long you see the town. It rests peacefully beneath the moonlight. Small cottages with flower boxes beneath their windows. Curved cobblestone streets. White fences. Gardens overflowing with roses and wildflowers. Nothing seems rushed here. Nothing seems worried. The entire town feels wrapped in a blanket of calm. A wooden sign near the entrance reads, "Welcome to Stillwater." Beneath it are smaller words, "Please walk slowly. Time is resting." You smile, and somehow that makes perfect sense. You enter the town. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not an empty silence, not loneliness, a comfortable silence. The kind found in libraries, in snowy forests, in peaceful mornings before the world wakes. A bakery stands on the corner. Its windows glow warmly. Inside, fresh bread cools on wooden shelves. No one is working, yet somehow the bread is still warm. Its comforting aroma drifts into the street. Further ahead sits a bookstore. The lights remain on. Books fill every shelf. An old rocking chair rests near the window. And although nobody occupies it, the chair rocks ever so gently, back and forth, as though remembering every story it has ever heard. You continue walking. Soon you reach the town square. At its center stands a clock tower, tall and elegant. Its face shines softly beneath the moon. But as you look closer, something catches your attention. The hands aren't moving. Neither is the second hand. The clock reads exactly 12 o'clock. And yet nobody seems concerned. In fact, the entire town seems pleased, comfortable, at ease. A small plaque beneath the tower explains why. In Stillwater, time rests at midnight, so tired hearts may rest as well. You sit on a nearby bench, And for a moment, you imagine what life would be like if time truly stopped. No deadlines, no alarms, no schedules, no rushing from one thing to the next. Just peace, just breathing, just being. The thought feels wonderful. A cool breeze drifts through the square. The leaves overhead rustle softly. And somewhere nearby, a wind chime sings. A gentle melody. Simple, unhurried, beautiful. You close your eyes for a moment, and when you open them again, you notice something remarkable. The stars above the town appear to be moving more slowly, almost imperceptibly, as though even the heavens themselves have chosen to rest tonight. You continue your walk. Soon you discover a narrow lane lined with maple trees. Golden lanterns hang from every branch. Their reflections shimmer in puddles left behind by an earlier rain. The lane leads to a small hill overlooking the valley. At the top sits an elderly man in a rocking chair. He wears a wide-brimmed hat and a comfortable sweater. Beside him rests a sleepy golden retriever. The dog opens one eye as you approach, then decides everything is fine and falls asleep again. The old man smiles. "Beautiful night, isn't it?" You agree. "It always is," he says. "That's one of the nice things about this place." He gestures toward the valley below. The cottages, the river, the glowing lanterns, the distant mountains. "You know," he says thoughtfully, "people spend so much of their lives trying to get somewhere else." He pauses. "Tomorrow, next week, next year. But peace only ever lives right here." He taps the arm of his chair gently. "Right now." His words settle comfortably into the night air. You sit quietly beside him. Neither of you speaks for a while. There is no need. The valley speaks for itself. The stars speak. The river speaks. The gentle rhythm of the sleeping town speaks. Eventually, the old man stands. The dog stretches lazily. "It's getting late," he says with a smile. "Even by our standards." You both laugh softly. He tips his hat, then slowly walks down the hill with his faithful companion. You remain a little longer, watching the valley, watching the stars, watching the quiet beauty of a world that asks absolutely nothing of you. And little by little, you feel yourself becoming lighter, your thoughts becoming slower, your body becoming heavier, comfortably heavy, pleasantly relaxed. Far below, the lights of Stillwater glow like tiny stars scattered across the earth. The river reflects the moon. The mountains stand silent and watchful. Everything feels safe. Everything feels peaceful. And somewhere deep inside, sleep begins drawing closer. Not rushing, not demanding, just approaching. The way a gentle tide approaches the shore. Slowly, steadily, naturally. You rise from the hilltop and begin walking back toward the Dreamkeeper's cottage. The lantern in your hand glows softly. The path feels familiar now, comforting, like a memory you've always had. The river hums beside you. Crickets sing their nighttime songs. The lavender fields sway beneath the moon.
And by the time the cottage comes into view again, your eyelids feel just a little heavier. Your breathing feels just a little slower. And your mind feels wonderfully quiet. The dream keeper waits at the doorway, as though she knew exactly when you would return. She smiles warmly. Did you enjoy the town? You nod. She nods too. Most people do. Then she opens the door. Warm light spills onto the path. The scent of cedarwood and lavender welcomes you home once again. And as you step inside, the fire crackles softly. The chair by the hearth waits patiently. And somewhere beyond the window, the Valley of Dreams continues sleeping peacefully beneath the stars.
The fire burns quietly in the corner of the cottage. Golden light dances across the wooden walls. Outside, the valley sleeps beneath a blanket of stars. You settle into a comfortable chair near the window. The dream keeper places a soft wool blanket across your lap. It is warm, comfortable, heavy in the nicest possible way. For a while, neither of you speaks. The crackling fire fills the room with gentle sounds, the sort of sounds that belong only to peaceful evenings. Then the dream keeper looks toward the window. Have you ever visited the floating garden? She asks softly. You shake your head. A small smile appears on her face. Then perhaps tonight is the perfect night. She reaches into a nearby cupboard and removes a small wooden box. Inside rests a silver key. The metal glows faintly in the firelight, not brightly, just enough to catch your eye. The garden appears only after midnight, she says, and only for travelers who are nearly ready for sleep. She places the key gently into your hand. It feels warm, as though countless other dreamers have held it before you. You stand and walk outside. The night feels even quieter now. The stars shine overhead. The valley rests peacefully around you. Following the dream keeper's directions, you walk beyond the lavender fields, beyond the river, past a small grove of silver birch trees whose leaves shimmer beneath the moonlight. Eventually, you arrive at a stone archway. It stands alone upon a grassy hillside. There is no wall attached to it, no gate, just the archway itself, ancient, elegant, beautiful. Vines covered with tiny white flowers climb its weathered stones, and at its center is a small silver lock, the exact shape of the key in your hand. You slide the key into the lock, turn it gently, and hear a soft click. Immediately, the air around you changes. A warm breeze stirs the grass. The flowers begin glowing softly, and beyond the archway, something impossible appears. A staircase made entirely of clouds. The steps stretch upward into the sky, higher and higher, disappearing into the stars. For a moment, you simply stare, but somehow nothing about it feels strange. Nothing feels impossible. This is the Valley of Dreams, and wonderful things happen here every night. You place one foot upon the first cloud step. It feels surprisingly solid, soft, yet strong, like walking upon the world's most comfortable carpet. The staircase rises gently, and you begin to climb, higher and higher. Below you, the valley becomes smaller. The cottages become tiny points of light. The river transforms into a ribbon of silver. The mountains appear softer, more distant, Still, you climb. Your breathing remains calm, slow, comfortable. The higher you go, the lighter everything feels. The worries of ordinary life seem very far away now. The unfinished tasks, the deadlines, the responsibilities, they remain somewhere below, tiny, unimportant, drifting away like distant clouds. Above you, the stars seem closer, almost close enough to touch. Their light feels gentle, warm, friendly. And eventually, after what feels like a wonderfully long time, the staircase ends. You step onto a floating island suspended among the clouds, and there before you lies the floating garden. It is unlike anything you have ever seen. Flowers bloom everywhere. Fields of lavender, white roses, bell bins, golden daisies, silver lilies that seem to glow softly from within. Every color appears richer here, more peaceful, more beautiful. The scent of flowers drifts through the air, sweet, fresh, relaxing. Butterflies float lazily among the blossoms. Their wings shimmer beneath the starlight. A narrow path winds through the garden. You follow it slowly. There is absolutely no reason to hurry, no destination waiting at the end, only the pleasure of walking, only the joy of being here. The clouds surrounding the island drift peacefully. Some resemble castles, others resemble ships, others look like enormous sleeping animals curled comfortably beneath the stars. You smile as you pass them. Far ahead, you notice a fountain. Its water rises silently into the air. No splashing, no noise, just graceful streams of silver water floating upward before slowly drifting back down again. You sit beside it. The stone beneath you is warm, comfortable. The fountain seems almost alive. Its water moves with perfect calm, perfect patience, as though it has all the time in the world. And perhaps it does. Nearby, a small plaque rests among the flowers. Its message is simple. The stars are never in a hurry, yet they arrive exactly where they belong. You read the words twice, then a third time. The message feels important somehow, gentle, comforting, a reminder that life does not always need to move quickly, that sometimes the best things arrive slowly, naturally, in their own time. You continue walking. Soon you reach the center of the garden. There stands an enormous tree. Its trunk is wider than a cottage. Its branches stretch far across the floating island. Thousands of lanterns hang from its limbs, tiny glowing lights, golden, amber, silver. Each lantern sways gently in the night air. The sight is breathtaking. Beneath the tree are dozens of hammocks, each one suspended between smooth wooden posts, each one covered with soft blankets, each one perfectly empty, waiting, inviting, welcoming. You choose one. The nearest hammock sways gently as you settle into it. The blanket feels warm. The fabric supports you perfectly. Above you, the lanterns glow among the branches. The stars shine beyond them, and all around you, the garden breathes softly. The flowers sway, the fountain flows, the clouds drift. Everything moves with the slow rhythm of deep relaxation. You close your eyes just for a moment and listen. Somewhere nearby, wind chimes sing softly, the most delicate music imaginable. Far away, you hear the distant call of a night bird. The sound is gentle, comforting.
Then silence returns. Not empty silence, living silence. The kind of silence that exists only in the most peaceful places. The hammock rocks slowly, back and forth, back and forth. The flowers release their sweet fragrance. The fountain whispers softly. And somewhere deep within you, sleep draws even closer. Closer than before. Closer than it has been all night. Like a friendly traveler approaching quietly along a peaceful path. You feel safe, protected, completely at ease. And before long, you realize it may be time to return to the valley below. But not yet. Not quite yet. For now, there is only the hammock, the lanterns, the stars, the floating clouds, and the peaceful garden above the world. A place where every flower blooms slowly, every breeze moves gently, and every tired traveler finds a little more rest, a little more calm, a little more sleep.
For a long while, you rest in the hammock beneath the lantern tree. The floating garden drifts peacefully among the clouds. The flowers sway gently. The fountain murmurs softly. The stars watch from above. And for a time, it feels as though the entire universe has slowed its pace. Eventually, a gentle breeze brushes across your face. It carries with it a new scent. Not flowers, not lavender, something different. The clean scent of salt air, fresh, cool, endless. You open your eyes. The lanterns still glow above. The clouds still drift lazily around the floating island. But somewhere beyond the garden, a narrow pathway of silver light now stretches through the sky. It wasn't there before. Or perhaps it was. Perhaps you simply hadn't noticed it. At the far end of the glowing path, far beyond the clouds, a single light shines steadily. Bright, warm, welcoming. A lighthouse. The sight immediately fills you with curiosity. Not excitement, not urgency, just the quiet desire to see what waits there. You slowly rise from the hammock. The blanket slips softly from your shoulders. The garden seems to nod farewell. The flowers continue their gentle dance. The fountain continues its endless song. And you begin walking along the silver path. Each step feels effortless. The clouds beneath your feet glow faintly. The stars seem closer than ever. You walk slowly. There is no reason to hurry. There never is in the Valley of Dreams. The lighthouse grows larger as you approach. Soon you begin hearing something. A sound older than mountains, cities, memory itself. The ocean. Far below, hidden beneath a blanket of moonlit mist, waves roll gently against a distant shore. The sound is rhythmic, steady, comforting. Like breathing, like a lullaby sung by the earth itself. Eventually, the path leads downward. The clouds begin to thin. The stars remain overhead. And before long, you find yourself standing on a quiet coastline. The ocean stretches endlessly before you, silver beneath the moonlight, calm, peaceful. The water moves in long, gentle swells. No storms, no rough waves, only the endless rhythm of the sleeping sea. At the edge of the shore stands the lighthouse, tall and white, its stone walls weathered by countless years beside the ocean. Its lantern shines steadily across the water, not searching, not warning, simply glowing, guiding, comforting. A wooden door stands slightly open. Warm light spills onto the path. You step inside. Immediately you feel at home. The lighthouse is surprisingly cozy. A small fire crackles in a cast-iron stove. Soft armchairs sit beside large windows overlooking the sea. Everything smells faintly of cedar wood and salt air. A kettle hums quietly on the stove. And seated near the window is the lighthouse keeper, an elderly woman with silver hair tied neatly behind her head. She looks up from her book and smiles warmly. "Welcome," she says. Her voice is calm, gentle, the sort of voice that instantly makes you feel safe. "I've been expecting you." You smile. This seems to happen often in the Valley of Dreams. Everyone somehow knows exactly when you will arrive. The lighthouse keeper pours a cup of warm tea. Steam rises slowly from the surface. She offers it to you. The mug feels pleasantly warm in your hands. You sit beside the window. Together you watch the sea. Neither of you speaks for a while. There is no need. The ocean speaks instead, each one rolling softly toward the shore, each one retreating gently into the darkness. The sound is rhythmic, steady, comforting. Eventually, the lighthouse keeper closes her book. "Do you know why this lighthouse exists?" she asks. You shake your head. She smiles. "It helps wandering thoughts find their way home." You look toward the lantern overhead. Its golden beam sweeps slowly across the water. Again and again. Steady, reliable, never hurried. "Every night," she continues, "people bring their worries here." She gestures towards the sea. The ocean takes them. You glance out at the dark water. The moonlight dances across the waves. The sight feels strangely reassuring. The keeper arises and walks to a small wooden chest. Inside are hundreds of tiny paper boats, each one carefully folded, each one unique. She hands one to you. The paper feels smooth and light. "Write nothing," she says. "Simply imagine placing your worries inside." You hold the little paper boat, and for a moment you think about all the things people carry. Responsibilities, deadlines, mistakes, questions, unfinished tasks, the countless small concerns that fill ordinary days. Then, in your imagination, you place them gently into the boat, one by one, without judgment, without struggle, simply letting them go. The keeper nods. Together you step outside onto the shore. The ocean waits patiently. The moon hangs low above the horizon. You kneel beside the water and place the tiny paper boat upon the surface. A small wave carries it away, slowly, peacefully. The little boat drifts farther and farther into the moonlight. Soon it becomes only a tiny white speck. Then it disappears entirely. Gone, carried safely into the sleeping sea. The lighthouse keeper smiles. There now. And somehow you feel lighter. Not dramatically, not suddenly,
just a little lighter, a little calmer, as though some invisible weight has quietly slipped away. You return inside. The fire burns low and warm. The tea remains comforting. The ocean continues its endless song beyond the windows.
The lighthouse grows quieter as the night deepens. The fire burns low. The tea has long since cooled. Beyond the windows, the sleeping sea continues its endless rhythm. Wave after wave, breath after breath. The lighthouse keeper sits peacefully beside the fire. Her book rests closed upon her lap. The lantern overhead turns slowly, its beams sweeping across the water one final time. Then she looks toward you and smiles. I think there is one last place you should visit before sleep. Her voice is almost a whisper now, soft enough to blend with the sound of the waves. She points toward the far end of the coastline. There, barely visible beneath the moonlight, stands a small house. A warm golden light glows from its windows. The sight fills you with immediate comfort. Not curiosity, not excitement, only comfort. As though you have seen this house before, perhaps in a dream, perhaps long ago, perhaps somewhere deep within your memory. The lighthouse keeper stands. She opens the door. Cool night air drifts inside. The house of gentle dreams, she says. Every traveler ends their journey there. You thank her. She simply nods, as though gratitude is unnecessary between old friends. Then you step outside. The moon hangs low above the sea. The stars shine quietly overhead. And you begin walking along the shoreline. The sand beneath your feet feels soft, smooth, comfortable. Tiny waves reach the shore, then gently retreat. The sound follows you as you walk, a constant companion, a peaceful rhythm. The house slowly grows larger. It sits upon a grassy hill overlooking both the sea and the valley beyond. White walls, a stone chimney, warm light glowing through lace curtains. Wildflowers surround the garden. Lavender, chamomile, white daisies swaying softly beneath the stars. The entire place seems wrapped in peace,
protected from worry, protected from noise, protected from everything except rest. A narrow stone path leads to the front door. You climb the gentle hill. The grass moves softly around your ankles. The breeze carries the scent of flowers, and before long, you arrive. The front door opens before you can knock. Inside waits a woman with kind eyes and silver hair. Not the dream keeper, not the lighthouse keeper. Someone else, yet somehow familiar. She smiles warmly. Welcome home. The words feel perfect, because somehow, despite never having been here before, it does feel like home. She leads you inside. The house of gentle dreams is beautiful. A fire glows softly in the hearth. Books line the shelves. Comfortable blankets rest across oversized chairs. The air smells faintly of vanilla and cedar wood. A grandfather clock stands quietly in the corner. But unlike ordinary clocks, its hands move almost too slowly to notice, as though time itself has become sleepy. The woman gestures toward a large window. Outside, the sea shimmers beneath the moon. The valley glows softly in the distance. The floating garden drifts among the clouds high above. And for a moment, you realize something. Every place you visited tonight can be seen from here. The midnight train, the valley of dreams, Stillwater, the floating garden, the lighthouse beside the sleeping sea. All of them connected, all part of the same peaceful world. The woman notices your expression. She smiles. Every path eventually leads here. You sit beside the fire. The chair welcomes you instantly. Soft cushions support your body. Warm blankets rest across your lap. The flames dance before you. The woman pours a cup of warm milk sweetened with honey. Steam curls lazily upward. You take a sip. Warmth spreads through your body. Comfortable, relaxing, safe. The woman sits across from you. For a while, neither of you speaks. The fire speaks instead, crackling softly, glowing warmly, its light flickering across the room. Then the woman arises. She walks to a nearby shelf. Upon it sits a collection of small glass jars, hundreds of them, each glowing faintly from within. Blue, gold, silver, amber. The sight is beautiful. What are they, you ask? She lifts one carefully. Inside floats a tiny golden light. A peaceful memory, she says. Everyone who visits leaves one behind. She places the jar back upon the shelf. Another contains the memory of a summer afternoon. Another holds the comfort of rain upon a roof. Another contains the comfort of a childhood blanket. Another the sound of laughter shared with friends. Thousands of gentle moments. thousands of beautiful memories, preserved forever, safe, protected. She hands you an empty jar. Its glass feels cool, smooth. What memory would you like to leave behind? You think for a moment. Perhaps a peaceful morning, a favorite place, a kind voice, a beautiful sunset. Whatever memory appears, the jar begins glowing softly, golden light filling its glass. The woman smiles. Perfect. She places your jar among the others, where it shines quietly beside countless memories from countless dreamers. Then she returns to her chair. The fire continues its slow dance. Outside, the sea whispers. The stars shine. The night grows deeper.